The night was heavy with rain, and inside the vast glass building of the company, silence wrapped around the empty hallways. Only the soft squeak of a mop and the shuffle of tired footsteps echoed against the marble floor. Henry, the janitor, moved slowly, shoulders bent with years of hard labor, his back carrying the invisible weight of poverty, loneliness, and rejection. His life had been nothing but quiet survival, never once imagining he would become the center of a story that would shake hearts and change lives. But fate often works in strange, quiet ways. That evening, as Henry pushed his mop along the shining floor, he heard the faintest sound, a sob. At first, he thought it was the wind pressing against the glass doors. But when the sound came again, small, broken, and full of a kind of sorrow only a child could carry, Henry's heart clenched. He followed the sound down the corridor until his eyes fell upon the little figure sitting on the steps of the building's lobby. She was no older than 8 or 9. Her clothes were soaked, torn, and clung to her small frame. Mud streaked her face, her hair plastered to her forehead, but her eyes were the kind of eyes that had already seen too much of the world's cruelty. They were wide, tired, and quietly pleading for something no one had ever given her. Henry crouched down, his old knees cracking as he tried to make himself small and unthreatening. And then, in a voice so fragile it nearly shattered him, she whispered the words that would change everything. "Can you be my family?" That question did not feel like a simple plea. It felt like a knife that pierced through the silence of the giant building, slicing into Henry's heart, digging through years of his own abandonment and loss. He had never had a family himself. His parents had died early, he had grown up in foster homes, and the idea of belonging had always been nothing but a distant dream. And here, standing before him, was a reflection of everything he had once been, an orphan asking for love in a world too busy to care. Before I continue, let me ask you something. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of compassion to heal broken lives, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone you care about, and don't forget to subscribe to Kindness Spark. Your support helps us keep telling stories that remind the world that love, no matter how small, can change everything. Now, let's return to the story. Henry wanted to say yes instantly, to scoop her into his arms and tell her she wasn't alone anymore. But reality was cruel. He had nothing, no house of his own, no savings, no stability. Just a janitor's wage, barely enough to keep a tiny rented room. His heart ached because he knew society would laugh at the idea of a man like him becoming someone's father. Yet when he looked into her eyes, filled with such desperate longing, he could not bring himself to walk away. He gave her his old coat, gently wrapping it around her shivering frame, and asked her name. She told him it was Emily. Her parents had died in a car accident years ago, and since then, she had been moved from one foster family to another. None of them had kept her. None of them wanted her. "They say I'm too quiet, too broken," she whispered, "and they always send me back." Henry's throat burned. He could see she was used to rejection, and yet she was still brave enough to ask a stranger, an old janitor, if he could be her family. That courage was more than most adults had. That night, Henry couldn't bring himself to leave her outside. He gave her food from the vending machine, found a small blanket in the janitor's closet, and let her rest in the corner while he finished his shift. All the while, Emily clung to his presence like a fragile thread of hope. What neither of them realized was that someone else was watching. On the top floor, in his office that overlooked the lobby, the CEO of the company, Mr. Donovan, sat in silence. He had been working late, surrounded by wealth, power, and all the luxuries money could buy. Yet his heart was empty. His own family had fallen apart years ago because of his obsession with success. His wife had left him, his children resented him, and though he had everything material, he had no one to call his own. When he saw the little girl beg the janitor to be her family, something stirred inside him. He watched Henry, this poor man who had nothing, offer warmth and compassion without hesitation. It made the CEO question everything he had built his life upon. The next morning, Henry woke Emily gently and told her they would find help. He planned to take her to social services, though the thought of letting her go tore at him. But before he could leave, Mr. Donovan stepped out of his office. His presence was commanding, his tailored suit and stern expression making both Henry and Emily freeze. For a long moment, the CEO said nothing. Then, in a low voice, he asked Henry to come with him. Confused and nervous, Henry followed, Emily clutching his hand tightly. Inside the grand office, Donovan looked at them with eyes that carried both authority and something deeper, an unspoken sadness. He asked Emily to share her story, and she did, her voice trembling but steady. Then he turned to Henry and asked why he had helped her. Henry's answer was simple, almost childlike in its honesty, because I know what it feels like to have no one. And no child should ever feel that way. The CEO was silent for a long time. And then he did something no one expected. He offered to help. Donovan had the means to ensure Emily was safe, that she had a home, education, and everything she needed. But when he suggested taking responsibility, Emily's eyes filled with panic. She shook her head fiercely and clung to Henry's arm. "I don't want money," she cried. "I just want a family. I want him." Her words broke through the last walls around Donovan's heart. For years, he had measured everything in numbers and profits, yet in that moment, he saw clearly what he had lost, the simple, priceless value of love. He realized Emily did not need luxury. She needed belonging. And Henry, though poor, had the one thing Donovan could not buy, a genuine heart. Over the next weeks, Donovan quietly arranged things behind the scenes. He used his influence to help Henry apply for guardianship of Emily, vouching for his character. He provided a small but comfortable apartment for them under Henry's name, ensuring they had stability. But he did it discreetly, never once making it seem like charity. Instead, he made it appear as though Henry had earned it through years of loyal work. Emily blossomed in those weeks. Her laughter, once buried under pain, began to return. She would wait for Henry after his shifts, run into his arms, and chatter endlessly about the little things she discovered each day. For Henry, life had color again. The emptiness that had haunted him for decades was replaced with the warmth of a daughter's love. And Donovan, he became a silent witness. He visited often, sometimes joining them for dinner. He saw how Emily would giggle at Henry's clumsy cooking, how she would hold his hand even while falling asleep. He saw love in its purest form, something he had lost in his own pursuit of wealth. One evening, Donovan finally spoke. He confessed to Henry that he had once had everything, a family, children, love, but had lost it because he valued success over people. "Watching you and Emily," he admitted, "reminds me of what really matters. You've given me something I thought I'd never find again, hope." Henry, humbled, simply nodded. "Maybe it's not too late for you either," he said softly. That night, Donovan sat alone in his office, staring at old photos of his estranged children. For the first time in years, he picked up the phone and called them, his voice shaking as he asked if they could meet. It was the beginning of his own healing, a second chance inspired by a janitor and a little orphan girl. As months passed, Emily officially became Henry's daughter. Their bond grew stronger, unshakable. They lived modestly, but happily, building a life filled with small joys. And Donovan, though wealthy, found his greatest treasure not in his empire, but in the friendships and love he rediscovered. Emily's plea, "Can you be my family?" had not only given her a father. It had given Henry a reason to live, and Donovan a reason to change. If this story has touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Spark. Your support helps spread messages of compassion and hope in a world that desperately needs it. And before we end, I have a special request. Please comment below, what does family mean to you? Your words may inspire someone who feels lost to believe in love again. Because sometimes, all it takes is one act of kindness, one small yes, to change the course of many lives forever.